It's a truly epic fight this weekend. Yes, indeed, it is David Haye, the South London boy from the Fitzroy Lodge Club in Lambeth, fighting, I say, for the WBA heavyweight title against Nikolai Valuev. It's a fight of outrageous proportions. More on that in a minute. But to start tonight, here is David talking to the BBC's boxing correspondent, Mike Costello.
This is where I get focused on the job in hand. You know, I've got a mountain of a man to get out of the way. You know, I feel I've got the right strategy. I'm going to hit the gym tonight. You know, not do anything crazy, but just go there and just sort of work through the strategy and the game plan. And I believe I'm going to bring these titles back to Britain.
So you're saying that now you're here in Germany, it's time to conserve all the energy that you need?
You can't use up a lot of unnecessary energy by screaming and shouting. So you know, I'm trying to hold as much in as possible and just get ready for the main event on Saturday night. And
having arrived here now, David, in fight week, what have you made of the reaction and the build up to the fight generally now you're here in the country?
I'm loving it. This is what I'm born for. You know, I love the big event. I love the cameras. I love the big show. You know, I love people getting excited about this fight. You know, all you got to do is look at me and this guy next to each other, and you want to see what's going to happen when we step through the ropes. I know I've got what it takes to beat him, and I know he feels he's got what it takes to beat me. So when you get two guys like that, you know, 100% confident victory, you're always going to get an explosive fight.
And when you see the two of you standing together, the fact that you're fighting, in a sense, in his home country, where he's been based for 6 years, there's so much against you. But in the past, you've thrived on that situation.
Yeah. You know, as long as people are there, as long as people care, as long as there's emotion, whether it's for me or against me, you know, I thrive and I soak it up. And I'll make a lot of Germans unhappy on Germans and Russians on a Saturday night. They're going to have their hands in their head, and they're going to be really, really upset.
And one or two people in the media corps have been saying that once you meet or see or you're in the company of Valuev 2 or 3 times, he actually gets smaller, less awesome.
Yeah, you know, the first time I saw him that was on a post. We made a life-size sort of cutout of him, and you know, so I'm used to. He has it in the gym, so every day I'm training. If times are hard in the bag, I'll look around and I can see the big poster of him, and I just keep going a bit harder. So I'm used to looking at him. I'm used to looking at the size of him, you know. So when I see him in the flesh, he doesn't seem that big at all.
And the dream's getting closer now.
Yeah, the dream's around. I can taste it. You know, the heavyweight champion of the world. You know, it's what I've always dreamt of. It's what I've always wanted, and it's what I've been banging the drum about since I first turned pro. When I first laced on a pair of gloves at the age of 10 years old, I said I'd be heavyweight champion. You know, in a couple of days, it's my time to do that.
And he did say he would be heavyweight champion from about the age of 10 or 11. Even during the 9 or 10 months, he had to take off because his body was growing at an outrageous rate. And if he'd have carried on training, he'd have injured himself. Now, let's stick with Haye. It's the only place to be, really. It's Nuremberg, the scene of this Saturday's heavyweight fight. Now, it's probably better known to most of you as the David and Goliath fight, or the fight between that nice boy from Waterloo and that big Russian geezer. Because Valuev, my friends, is big, 7 foot and about 23 stone. Although, of course, you will variously hear him described as being 7 foot 2, 3, 4, 5, and at least 25 stone. What's a little myth? You know, who's going to get in the way? Who's going to disagree with a little bit of an extension like that? I mean, basically, he's the size of a double-decker bus in old money. Well, the BBC's boxing correspondent Mike Costello has been in Haye and Valuev's shadow since Monday out there in Nuremberg, and I'm delighted to say that he joins me now from the German city. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, sir. Have you had a sneak preview of Michael Buffer's script?
No. Is that what he's going to call him? The man who's the size of a London double-decker bus. And wait, because you know Buffer does it partly in German as well, Mike. Can you imagine? He's going to have a field day on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Mike, is it bubbling and boiling? Because it's in all the papers here. It's on all the channels. It's everywhere.
Yeah. I suppose the difficulty is, Steve, that you associate a big fight like this of this magnitude with Las Vegas, whereas in Las Vegas it's not just all in one city, it's all in one hotel, it's all concentrated in one place, so everybody around the fight is in the same place the whole time, whereas here everybody's staying in different hotels, and so you don't get that same kind of buzz during the week. And the biggest indicator I suppose we've had so far was a couple of days ago they both had what they call open workouts. It was in a shopping centre downtown. About 400 or 500 people turned out, but to be honest, Steve, it wasn't Ricky Hatton proportions, you know, at the Trafford Centre in Manchester or anything like that. But it's building slowly, and I suppose one of the reasons it's slower than other fights, Steve, is that the German promoters here don't need to do as much work because it's being shown on national television here in Germany, and they know that they'll get a very decent audience, upwards of 40% share on Saturday.
So they could go up to like 10 million viewers or 9 million viewers, maybe even more, Mike, on TV out there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big fight over here. Valuev has been based in Germany for 6 years, and he's been champion since 2005. And over here, they tell me, it's gone beyond the circus freak now. They're starting to admire him as a champion. And I don't think there's any question that the man's improved since his one defeat. He changed his trainer. He's now being trained by an ex-Soviet flyweight, Alexander Zimin, and he has tidied up a bit. And I think, you know, I've been talking to others about this, Steve. This is much more than just a circus freak show. This is actually a decent fight, because just as was the case with Amir Khan back in his world title fight in July, David Haye here on Saturday night can't afford to make even a semblance of a mistake.
Not even a slight. Fun enough, Mike, you mentioned there was, had I been reading Michael Buffer's script, I was wondering if you've been reading the piece I wrote in the Indie today, because the whole piece was about how this guy has, this guy Valuev has been abused by different people over the years, sports scientists and coaches, but actually what's happened is he's shaken off his beast from the East and all these freak nicknames, and he's actually a good fighter now. He's a decent fighter.
Well, there was one performance after the defeat. His second fight after he was beaten in 2007, and that's the only fight, by the way, in 52 that he's lost. Yep. He faced another ex-champion called Sergey Liakovich. Look, we're not talking Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier and George Foreman here, but he was a world champion. And he made him look very, very ordinary, and he made him look ordinary with a single punch, which was the left jab, which had become much more dominant since that one defeat. And that's the punch that David is going to have to work his way around, and look out for the sneaky stuff that comes behind it.
Now, we've both known David a long time, Mike, and we know he's a guy that is not afraid to wear his heart out on his sleeve and leave his brain back in the changing room. Now, he can't afford to do that. Are you seeing signs that he does have a mature game plan?
Yes, I am. And I saw signs in 2 or 3 workouts that we were invited to while he was still based in London, and also here at the final head-to-head press conference yesterday, Steve, he was much the more nervous of the two.
Okay,
it's dawning on him now how big this is. He's got the same kind of face that he had in the week of the Enzo Maccarinelli fight. Now remember back there, Steve, everybody was saying that David Haye would come out at the O2 Arena and would be throwing 50 punches in a minute, and that he would blow Maccarinelli away. What we saw was one of the quietest rounds in World Championship history. When he needs to be disciplined, he can be. Against Jean-Marc Mormec, when he went over to France to beat a Frenchman who'd lost only once in 10 years to take the cruiserweight title in his backyard, he got knocked down in the 4th round. What did he do? Did he rush back in? He went on holiday for 2 rounds.
Fantastic.
And then came back. So there are signs that when he really needs to do it, and maybe, Steve, when he's frightened into doing it, he does it.
Listen, Dave, for all his bravado and all his chest out, walking head first into the eye of the storm, okay, at the end of the day, he does suffer like a lot of fighters, and he does thrive off that degree of fear. Mike, he does admit that.
Yes, he does, and it's fascinating to watch the fighters in these different stages of the build-up, and how calm he was, how assured he was, and how talkative he was on all those occasions in London. Whereas here this week, it was a much tighter face as he sat on the top table. And the contrast was fascinating as well with Valuev, who was just looking around the room, staring at the ceiling, staring out at some empty chairs at the back of the room. He just looked bored. He looked as if he wanted to be anywhere but that room that night. You've got at one end of the extreme, I suppose, you've got Floyd Mayweather and Ricky Hatton, who love a camera, love a microphone. Whereas Valuev wanted to be anywhere else but that room. He loves the box, but he hates what comes with being a champion.
He probably wanted to be out in the forest, killing a bear with his bare hands, or strangling a wild pig or something, Mike. All the stuff that he's been credited with.
Or reading Tolstoy or any other author the promoter can remember at any given minute.
No, it's not just any author. Because Kalle Sauerland, the young promoter out there's this guy called Kalle Sauerland, the promoter. He's come up with, don't you? He mentioned all names. Then he said, and of course, he loves Agatha Christie. You can't invent this stuff, can you? Listen, Mike, I'm out there on Saturday afternoon. I'll see you there now. It's bubbling and bubbling along. Thanks so much for taking a few seconds out to join us tonight. Mike Costello, who will be leading the commentary at about 10 o'clock-ish or 10:15 on Saturday night on 5 Live. They have a radio coverage. Obviously, it's on Sky Box Office as well, but it is on 5 Live, and it will be Mike Costello will be singing it, and I'll try and jump in at the end. But I think I'm in just the normal breath seats, as they say. Now,